I think small businesses give up on inbound too quickly. They post an ad, they don't see what they like, and then they get approached, like you said, by a lot of agencies, and they give in to that fear that they'll never find anyone. We know from people marketing products and services that it's not just a question of posting one ad. It's a question of an entire strategy around building, telling your story, nurturing someone along, having them become engaged with your story and your company. And it sounds big, but those companies, those big companies that you're competing against are doing that. They have teams that are actually building the company's story, that are building the value proposition, that are using advanced marketing techniques to engage people, to make them aware, and to actually build a brand around who they are. And small companies, they can do that. It's not that hard, but I think people give up too quickly on inbound. And that's the thing. That's probably our biggest value proposition is we come in and we help people get over that, build their story, start taking advantage of actually now there's pretty simple marketing techniques and really get people to understand who they are. When you go from being a senior leader in a company, where you have people around you that you're nurturing, that you're trying to coach, and you're using that team to achieve things, you're actually exercising real leadership at a high level. And when you go and you move to a smaller company, or even if you do something entrepreneurial where you're starting to get one or two people in, you wind up taking more things on yourself. You wind up being a jack of all trades, wearing lots of hats, that kind of thing. And the type of person that gets into an entrepreneurial situation, will have a tendency to enjoy that a lot. You'll have a tendency to say, wow, this is great. I have control over everything that I used to have to count on other people to do. And you have to be really careful not to pull that in too close. You have to realize that it's still about surrounding yourself with people and pushing those things out to those people, nurturing them, elevating them. And that whole leadership contract has to stay in place. And I found that's probably the hardest thing. And that's probably the thing that I've struggled with the most.
It's interesting. I'm in the process of reading a book by Bill Walsh, the old head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Okay. And the name of it is escaping me right now, but it's all about that leadership is focusing on process, not necessarily outcomes. So I would argue he's probably making that same argument that you've got to lead because you've got to set the vision, but then you have to make sure that you're managing, as in you're making sure that everyone's doing their processes to get to that end goal. Yeah. But you are right. I think there's a misunderstanding of you're not either a leader or a manager. When you own your own business, you do have to do both. And I don't know, and I also have to add into that, I would argue mentorship of some kind. Oh, so I don't know where that fits into the equation, but you are right. I think people that have never had their own business before are classically trained in one or the other. I don't think they understand the importance of having to do both. And that's what you're saying, correct? That you've got to be a manager and a leader.
When you're running a component of a company or running a division, you're running a functional area in a company. It tends to be those components of strategy around selecting what you're going to do, selecting what you're not going to do. Focus, the fundamental principle of focus, actually becomes pretty easy. You have people around you. You look at things mechanistically, you make decisions with the group, and it's actually easy to say no to doing things. Whether it's a marketing strategy or an operational strategy, you can say no to a lot of things so you can focus on the things that you want to do really well. When you're running your own business, you tend to think of it more holistically, and you tend to think of it more like an artist. And what I would say is you can fall into the pitfall of wanting to do more, wanting to do everything. And that strategic component of saying no to some stuff, walking away from it, becomes more difficult. Harder and harder is what I was trying to say. And I would say that that's something else that you really have to focus on, that idea of crafting a business or an offering that is really simple.